Come closer. You can come closer. Even closer, yeah. I thought I might start off. If you think about Hazelhurst, it's a place that has a gallery, but it also has an incredible kind of art centre, and we're really kind of focused on the sort of teaching of art. Ollie, who we just spoke to, is an amazing educator in art as well. And one thing that is interesting about artists is they'll talk about in their childhood that the fact that they had someone who just said to them, you're on the right track, and sort of inspired them and gave them the courage to be an artist. And what's fascinating about Jasper Knight is that his secondary school art teacher said, "You have no business being an artist."
It hasn't changed since. You just can't get faces right.
Do you want to talk about that? Because it's an amazing story. It's an amazing story.
Yeah. Look, it was. I don't know if it was like I wasn't good at art so much as it was like. Maybe I shouldn't consider it as a career, but I think that comes across as like when you're studying art at school, you don't really know what an art career is. I mean, and that comes down to like the level of, I guess, the fact that does a professional practice kind of exist for young budding artists, and if you don't get that valuable kind of encouragement. And not just through marks, but just through mentorship or like just being simply told you're doing a good job or whatever. And then that going on to art school, and if you're studying law, for example, you go and you become a paralegal, or you have a mentor, or none of that kind of stuff exists. Yeah. Kind of at art school. You may get the occasional drop in from an art critic or
curator or something.
But maybe, and usually they'll tell you work shit anyway.
Yeah.
And that definitely happened to me at art school. I can remember who they are. Yeah. And they've since written in the paper that my art's shit, and that's okay. But that's all part of it.
Yeah.
And like, if you were to stop being an artist because someone told you your work was bad, whatever. You'd never do it.
And I hope I'm not giving away to tell the full story, but I'll just tell it briefly. So the teacher does not think Jasper should be an artist.
No.
Actively encourages him not to be an artist.
Correct.
Jasper does not listen to him. There's a final exhibition at his school, and the then Premier, Bob Carr, comes to open the exhibition and sort of surveys the work, talking to the teacher, and goes, "Oh, the students have done a wonderful job. The incredible diversity here. I would like to buy that work." And it's Jasper's work.
Yeah.
And then Jasper Knight goes on to paint the Premier Bob Carr for the Archibald.
That's right.
Vanquishing his teacher.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, I did forget entirely why we were telling that story, actually. That did happen. So, it was in Art Express, I remember, It was in Art Express, and the Premier's office bought it, and the Minister for Education used it on the Christmas cards. So it was a real up yours to
the teacher,
to the whole education system, and I got 50 out of 50. So I was like, well, maybe I should be an artist.
There you go.
But I don't think that any of that matters. I just think what did matter was I was like, does the Premier really buy? Because I thought that was just something they told kids, and so I was like, do they really buy it, or they just? So, like, I did ring up the Premier's office, which, of course, I was this idiot, and I thought it was just a little office in the city. But, of course, the Premier's office is an entire floor of a skyscraper. And sure enough, it was there, like, stuck behind a photocopier in one of the rooms out the back, but it was still there. And I did get to paint the Premier at the time, which was a strange experience. The late Bob Ellis was writing his Bob Carr's speeches, and they were swearing like sailors behind closed doors, of course, and I never heard what he thought of my Archibald work, but his PA did say, it looks like he's looking at you and through you at the same time, and that was the perfect response. That's all I needed. And that kind of was the perfect bow on all that story. So
Yeah, and I hesitate to mention the Archibald. We've mentioned it a couple of times today because, of course, Jasper Knight is a 28 times Archibald finalist. No, like 10-time Archibald finalist.
a lot. I've been in a few times.
A lot. Yeah. Hasn't won the thing, and it is a sore spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't really do figurative shows. I've kind of built my career off doing kind of industrial landscape, which is surface heavy, and it's not really on canvas, and it's made out of constructions, which is out of masonite, pegboard, plywood, found signs, and that's kind of like what I've done since I left art school, and that's because I had a good teacher at art school, which is all you need. And that was Ian Grant, who's a good artist, and he said, your work's about surface. And I thought, but I don't know what to paint. He goes, don't worry, doesn't matter, do anything. And I said, but I really don't know what to paint. He said, go get the 1,000 Chairs book, open it up, choose a couple of chairs, paint those. And it was like such a release. And I think I told him once, but I don't think it really registered. But I did that. That became my first solo show, which sold out. And I'm pretty sure that's why I'm an artist. And I still paint the same stuff today. And I think my work's all about surface still. And even if it's on canvas now, it still has the drips. And it was like someone telling you, or maybe just giving you confidence, or the confidence that my teacher at high school didn't give me, just to go and do it. And you do feel like a bit of a fraud saying you're an artist, especially when you're at definitely at high school, and definitely at art school, because there's a lot of other artists and a lot of people have a lot of confidence. And even when now I've done 50 solo shows, even if I get into a taxi and someone says you're an artist, and then you end up saying, sometimes I say I'm a house painter. Yeah. I say I'm a painter, and then they go, well, how much would it be to do my house? And then you end up going, 5,000. I can't even say that I'm a painter still.
Do you go do the job?
I do the job. Yeah. Well, some of my friends are painters, but they still paint houses.
Yeah.
And they're in the National Gallery of Australia, but they still paint houses because they can't quite, it's a tough gig.
It is a tough gig.
Yeah.
And so I thought we might talk specifically about this work, because one thing that's interesting, we did a conversation and I wrote about one of your previous series, which was sort of looking at I guess the kind of visual output of kind of French posters and Toulouse-Lautrec and things like that, and taking inspiration from sources. And what was great was that you talked about, like, in your childhood bedroom having this poster.
Yeah.
And you remembering it. It was like one of your first kind of visual kind of cues that existed. Why are you so far away? It's like...
I don't know.
I mean, I'm taking offence.
I'm sorry.
But it's sort of like the 1,000 chairs thing, where you want to do a...
Tell me more. Yeah.
You want to do a show and you're like, I'm going to do it about this, and then you go for it. Yeah. And similarly with this work, which is sort of based on the Billy Wilder film, The Lost Weekend.
Yeah.
And sort of images and motifs from that film. So your sources are always kind of like diverse. It could be the built environment, it could be literature, it could be film. Yeah.
I think it may be an obsessive thing. I don't really know if it is, but like I seem to hone in on one thing and then that's it, and everything else melts away. And whether it's like with the Toulouse-Lautrec thing, it was just the famous screen prints. So I went to the Toulouse-Lautrec Foundation, done like 2,000 works. It was just the 19 famous nightclub.
The cafe kind of scenes.
Yeah, but it was just the famous 19. And then my dad said, we had 2 of those growing up. And then I was like, hang on, is my entire practice based on the fact that I have this memory that I didn't know about and I've forgotten? And he goes, yeah, you had the Dancing Girls poster, and they were the Arcade New South Wales show. They were huge, the ones they used at the bus stops. We had one in your bedroom when you were 5, and we had another one in the lounge room. We bought them because the art gallery sold them for $5. And I was like, but I use like mid-greys and primary colours with black outlines, and then that's exactly what the posters are. And like, because my whole show was repainting the posters, which, let me tell you, if you're painting another artist's work and literally like just bringing up the picture of the work and going, now I'm going to paint, you feel like a fraud. It's like me taking this picture, putting a canvas next to it and going, go home, British soldier. You literally feel like you're stealing someone else's idea. but I kind of made it work for my own. But it was such a specific idea, which is what you're talking about. So jump on to these works. I guess I was just interested in this one movie, The Lost Weekend, which is a Billy Wilder. And not many people know about it, and I didn't really know about it. And it actually won Best Film, Best Actor, Best Director.
It's like mid-50s, right?
Mid-40s.
Mid-40s, sorry.
Yeah. And won at Cannes or something. And I think the only next film to do that was that Korean film Parasite. But I just liked the one character and the fact that it was black and white and it was very film noir, and it's a terribly depressing story.
Sort of descent into alcoholism.
Yeah, and I had to tread carefully. I haven't even mentioned the alcoholism bit of it. I actually don't drink, so it's not a comment on my life personally. I just liked the character, so I got obsessed with the character on screen and started just screenshotting parts of the movie, screenshotting and obsessively getting hundreds of pictures of this guy, and then started making paintings, and some of them would drip and the faces would drip away too much, and then I'd lay them flat, pick them up, lay them flat, and I'd just keep making paintings, and some of them didn't work. And they're also acrylic, like Ollie's saying, but they're gloss acrylic because my career's been enamel, which is quite toxic, so I've had to kind of phase that out. And it hasn't been on canvas, like I said. So I've jumped onto canvas or linen, and now I'm using gloss acrylic, so it's still very shiny. But and that's my next solo show, which is in August, and it's very different because I have this recognisable style, which is another interesting question. I'm now 45. I've since 25 got this super recognisable style. It sells perfectly well. And then you suddenly decide to do this, which is completely different. So it's really exciting for me to do something entirely new.
Yeah.
And it's just good to feel the energy, be energised in the studio and do something totally different.
And I think that's the nature of painting. That's the one consistent thing that painters talk to me about, and I talk about it a lot. This idea that it's kind of almost like golf. Like, you never win golf, right? It's impossible. You never. So you're chasing this unattainable kind of thing. And painters, they'll go through periods where they really feel like they're on fire. Then they'll go through periods where they just can't. They don't have the flow, and then it will come back and stuff. But it's this kind of sort of lifelong pursuit. And I think about, and I should maybe take the moment to acknowledge the late Guy Warren, who recently passed away, 103. And just painted that whole time, So it's an interesting thing. We were talking about Ollie's palette before, and this kind of blue and white is something that has come a lot into your practice, And do you want to talk about why that is? What about the blue sort of attracts you?
I don't even know.
Yeah,
I just suddenly started using blue.
You painted palm trees.
I know.
Lots of stuff. Yeah.
I don't even really. I can't even explain it, to be honest. It's like I started buying it, and then I found these colours I liked. Then I started using that high saturate colour that a lot of artists have been using, and then I had a violent reaction against it. So Langridge make this ultra saturate, and you'll see it, a lot of artists have been using
ultramarine.
The ultra, and I thought, no, it's going to date everyone,
right,
to the early 2020s. There's going to be all these artists that use it. And then I just thought, I'm not going to use it. So I threw it all out, and I love it because I started making these big works with it, and it's a beautiful, beautiful paint. And so then I thought, I'm going to find something else.
Your blue.
I found this one blue, and it's all I've been using, and I think it's because it presents like oil paint, and it just works for me. Found the right. It's like anything. It's like anyone's job. You find the right people to work with. You find the right tools. And it frees you up to actually create.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've done that.
And people like me, of course, we always read weird stuff into things that to me it always kind of reads like cyanotype,
I mean, I'm just not that kind of painter.
Yeah.
I'm not like a theory style painter. I may be with, like, you always, I might be thinking deeper than I can explain, but I make a lot of work, and I like to edit, and I like to. painting like this has changed the way I make work, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I've got a show here. I make 12 works for the show. The space is this big, and here are the 12 works, and I plan it out.
Yeah.
Now I just keep painting and painting and painting, and it's energetic, and then that's the body of work for the year.
And how do you think this is a hypothetical, how do you think you would react, right, if for whatever reason someone said to you, okay, Jasper, 5 years, right?
Yeah.
You just got to put down your brush, you can't paint for 5 years. You can paint after those 5 years, but the next, 45 to 50, you can't paint at all.
Yeah.
How do you think your mind, your body, your kind of, your soul and your psyche would react to
I go crazy.
Yeah.
I go absolutely crazy. I think you talk to anyone who's a career painter here, if you can't get in the studio, it's like, I think I talked to a doctor about this, and I think everyone has it as a human. It's like a moment of mindfulness. It might be like you've worked a really hard day at the office, and it might be as simple as being in the backyard and sweeping the leaves out of the way. But that is your 10 to 15 minutes to clear your mind, process what's happened, and they said it's the moment of mindfulness. Mine is being in the studio and being able to process stuff and just move this stuff around without a dealer saying we're going to sell it and it has a financial outcome, without a gallerist saying it needs to be X amount for a wall, and without kids saying I need you home by this time, or without there being an actual something definite that it has to be for. And I think, it's really important to me to do that. And that's, I don't know, I think I'm quite lucky to be able to, really lucky. I actually understand that now. And from my history, because I also run a gallery, I've shown over 300 artists, so it's not like I am privileged, I completely understand that.
Yeah.
I'm really lucky to be able to do this. I'm under no illusion that I'm one of the super lucky ones that I can come in, got a lovely studio, I can paint, that's my only job. I've hit the jackpot.
Yeah, and it is focused on, one thing, and I'm sure you wouldn't mind me saying, you've covered a lot, but, Jasper had this experience not long after that thing where we're talking about with the premiere, where he received a medical diagnosis where he was given like a month to live, or like a very short period of time to live, right, as a young man. And for whatever reason, for whatever fate, and, young enough Jasper pulled through that, right, and is still with us here today, which I'm very happy about. But I think I think the gift of that for Jasper has been just this kind of sense of excitement about life and embracing art. Jasper's an incredible supporter of other artists, an incredible consumer of other artists, a very generous artist to many other artists, but fundamentally just loves the thing, And I think, in some ways, you've talked about that diagnosis and that illness is kind of a blessing that defined your life, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't see it as a negative thing at all. See it as really, like, a lot of people decide what they want to do when they're younger, and it takes a lot of time. But for me, it was a very definitive, just do this and try and make it work.
Yeah, and 50 solo shows later, which is enormous. Yeah. Questions?
I'll get it quick because I didn't get over it. Kind of have two.
Yeah, that's fine.
So one is like at high school when that teacher told you no, did that kind of give you the kind of impetus to go, oh, well, basically fingers up and I'm just gonna go because it was inside of you? And then the other question is, when you decided to create these from the movie, did you see the movie first, and while you're watching the movie that gave you the inspiration, or how did you come to that process?
The first one, no, it was roulette. I could have done anything. Like, my undergraduate degree was in film. I was making photography. Ollie and I have known each other for a long time. We were painting theatrical sets for productions. And I think as young creatives, you're doing anything and everything and just making and doing a lot of stuff. And to be honest, I could have been pushed and pulled in any direction. A lot of my friends ended up in all different kinds of jobs. So who knows? That's a big question mark. It just happened to be this, and Maybe it was because I got sick, but maybe that was the real up yours moment. And in terms of this, it was kind of premeditated. It started with looking at it on the computer and then moved to watching it and screen grabbing it. And I very much knew I wanted to make a painting series about this central character. And I spent a lot of time and was quite dedicated to filing different pictures and different angles of this guy. And I've got hundreds of pictures. And then just every time I wanted to make one, I would literally, the way I paint now is I literally just hold an iPhone Max Pro or whatever and I'm just going like that the whole time, just to get an idea of what it looks like. It's not that, and most of them are not anatomically correct, or I just have to kind of push and pull them till they are. And I mean, shoulders don't really look like that. It's just the feel of shoulders turning, he's down or he's down or he's turned, but one shoulder's there, the other shoulder's probably 50 centimetres high. That's what it would look like in real life. Shoulders don't do that. So yeah, I hope that
it was a long time before your time.
Yeah.
What was the initial contact?
I think it was like it was probably like a COVID thing, like Ollie. I think artists got very bored during COVID, so I think I was just watching film noir. There was a lot of stuff on television, and I think I discovered it looking at old movies.
It was such a, similarly to what Ollie was saying, Jasper also had a show that opened in COVID. I remember the people who saw it were the two guys who worked in the gallery, his wife and me. And the gallery's down on William Street. And I said, I'll come down and we'll film like what we're doing now, right? So at least, people can sort of see it online. And I'll never forget, I used to smoke back then, and it was on William Street. And I went out for a cigarette, and there was not one car parked on all of William Street, this busy kind of street. And the whole time I was there, not one car went past, and it was like being in my city, but being in a ghost world. Team, please join me in thanking the incredible Jasper Knight.
Thanks, guys.